I moved to Malaysia for 200 bucks. Seriously, could you? I'm talking about Johor Bahru, right across the border from Singapore, and the cost of living difference, insane. They say it's 60 to 65% cheaper here. Let that sink in. In Singapore, to live the same lifestyle that costs you $21,000 Singapore dollars, you'd only need around $7,348 Singapore dollars, or about 22,790 ringgit here in Johor Bahru. Imagine ditching sky-high rent for a place that feels like a steal. Think swanky condos, delicious food, all without draining your bank account. Let's put it this way, a luxury apartment that would bleed you dry for $10,000 in Singapore, here you're looking at maybe $3,000 for something similar. Groceries, entertainment, transport, it all adds up to massive savings, enough to make you seriously consider packing your bags, right? I'm talking about a potential extra $150,000 in your pocket every year. But is it really that simple? What are the hidden costs and catches that nobody tells you about? And is this insane cost-saving opportunity too good to be true? Stick around, because I'm about to dive into the truth about living in Malaysia for $200 and reveal if this is the ultimate life hack. Smash like, subscribe, and let me know in the comments if you would ever live off $200 a month. So I found a way to live large on practically nothing in Johor Bahru, but how is this even possible? I mean, what's the catch? Well, it starts with this, 29.3 billion Singapore dollars. That's the amount of approved investments flooding into Johor in just the first 9 months of 2025. I'm talking more money than some countries make in a year. This isn't just random luck. It's all thanks to something called the Johor-Singapore Special Economic Zone, or JS-SEZ. Think of it as a giant economic playground where Singapore and Malaysia are teaming up to create a cross-border powerhouse. Established in January 2025, the JS-SEZ is designed to attract even more investment, create jobs, and ultimately boost the entire region's economy. I even spoke to some local business owners who told me they've already seen a huge uptick in business since the JS-SEZ was announced. But where is all this money actually coming from, and what does it mean for the average person trying to live here? The answers might surprise you. All that investment, it sounded amazing, right? Like Johor was about to become some Southeast Asian paradise. But there's a dark side to all this rapid growth. Inflation is exploding. I started noticing it everywhere. At first it was subtle, a few extra cents here and there. Then it became impossible to ignore. Johor's annual inflation rate hit 2.3% in December 2025. That's the highest in Malaysia. I started comparing prices to Kuala Lumpur and Penang, expecting Johor to be cheaper. Nope, some food items in Johor Bahru are now more expensive. I started documenting everything. This isn't just some abstract economic concept. This is affecting real people right now. I went back through my grocery receipts from early 2024 and compared them to what I'm paying now. The difference? Same stuff, almost 20% more expensive in under 2 years. This changes everything. So, is Johor still worth it? Let's dive into the real cost of living, breaking down every expense. So, you're probably thinking, okay, groceries are up, but I can handle that. But what if I told you the real pain was just getting started? I'm talking about rent, the hidden housing crisis that's hitting Johor hard. Remember all that economic growth we talked about? Well, it's fueling a rental surge. See, rising demand and slower completion rates have pushed average gross rents from RM4 per square foot in 2024 to RM4.50 in 2025. That might not sound like much, but it's just the tip of the iceberg. I've seen rental renewals where landlords are hiking prices by 60, even 100%. Imagine getting that notice. I talked to several renters facing eviction. It's brutal. I even got my hands on a real rental contract showing a 100% rent increase. Check this out. Original price, bam, double the price. It's madness. This isn't just about numbers, it's about people losing their homes. But there's a secret loophole that some people are using to escape these insane rent hikes. I'll show you how next. Okay, so rents are spiking, but maybe you can still save money by living in Johor and working in Singapore. Sounds good, right? Wrong. Commuting. Imagine this, 10,000 people an hour, all vying for the same narrow strip of asphalt. It's pure chaos. I tried it for a week, and I'm pretty sure I aged 5 years. I interviewed several commuters who do this every single day. One guy, Ramesh, told me he spends 4 hours commuting, leaving him drained, missing time with his kids. Another woman, City, confessed the constant stress was impacting her health. Is saving a few bucks really worth sacrificing your well-being? Hopeful. There's some hope on the horizon. The Johor Bahru Singapore Rapid Transit System, or RTS Link, is slated to open by the end of this year. It should move 10,000 people per hour. But here's the kicker. Experts predict the RTS Link might actually increase property prices even more. So, solving one problem while making another worse, I was starting to feel trapped. Was there any way to escape the cycle of rising costs and soul-crushing commutes? But what if you didn't have to commute at all? Next, I'm testing out the digital nomad lifestyle. Okay, so that commute, officially soul-crushing. But what if I told you there was a way to live in Johor, ditch the border crossing nightmare, and potentially pay way less tax? I'm talking about the D Rantau Nomad Pass. Malaysia is basically rolling out the welcome mat for digital nomads, offering a 12-month visa renewable for another year to live and work here remotely. The real kicker? If you're earning your income from foreign sources, you're generally not taxed on it here. Let that sink in. Imagine this, you're pulling in, say, $50,000 a year. In many countries, a big chunk of that goes straight to taxes. But here, you could potentially keep almost all of it. Let's break it down. Depending on where you're from, you could be saving thousands, maybe even tens of thousands of dollars a year just by basing yourself in Johor with the D Rantau Pass. Suddenly, that co-working space with the ocean view, those amazing street food dinners, and even a weekend getaway to the islands become way more affordable. For me, the idea of ditching the daily commute, embracing a flexible lifestyle, and keeping more of my hard-earned cash, it was incredibly appealing. But it's not all sunshine and tax breaks. There's a hidden downside to the D Ronaldo visa that nobody talks about. So, about that D Ronaldo visa, paradise, right? Well, not so fast. The promise of digital nomad life in Malaysia is amazing, but I discovered a potential pitfall, renewing the visa. I interviewed a digital nomad, let's call her Sarah, who went through visa renewal hell. She told me about system issues and endless delays. Sarah's renewal process took 5 months. 5 months of uncertainty, stress, and wondering if she'd have to pack up and leave. Imagine putting your life on hold for almost half a year waiting for a piece of paper. That's the reality some D Rantau visa holders face. And it wasn't just waiting. Sarah shared screenshots of error messages, confusing instructions, and email exchanges with immigration officials that seemed to go nowhere. I'm talking email after email, chasing for updates with no clear answers. This isn't a one-off case either. I've seen rumblings online about similar issues. So, while the D Rantau Pass offers incredible benefits, it's crucial to be aware of the potential hurdles, especially when it comes to renewal time. It is not always smooth sailing. Do your research, prepare for delays, and brace yourself for possible bureaucratic hiccups. It could save you months of stress and uncertainty. But what if you're not a digital nomad? How can you still tap into Johor's booming economy? Next up, I'm diving into the hottest job market in town. So, the D Rantau visa renewal, yeah, that wasn't ideal. But what about traditional jobs? Turns out, Johor's got a booming industry. Data centers. I started digging, and it's insane. Johor is the fastest growing data center market in all of Southeast Asia. Like, a gold rush is happening right now. We're talking huge investments and tons of new jobs. The Johor Talent Development Council even launched a specific program to train people. It's called the Data Center Technician Program, started March 1st, 2025. They're aiming to fill 200 vacancies. 200! And get this, diploma holders can start at RM3500 to RM4000 a month. I even managed to get access inside one of these state-of-the-art facilities. Check this out. It's insane. Rows and rows of servers, blinking lights, sophisticated cooling systems, the works. It's like stepping into the future. I interviewed a few technicians, and they're all super excited about their careers. Real opportunities for growth, learning new skills. It's a huge opportunity. But there's a catch. These jobs require specific skills. I'm taking a crash course to see if I can qualify. So I decided to dive headfirst into a data center technician training program. I figured, how hard could it be? Turns out, pretty hard. The program promised to equip me with the skills to install, maintain, and troubleshoot complex data center systems. Reality? A crash course in frustration. My first challenge? Cooling systems. I spent hours trying to understand the thermodynamics, only to accidentally trigger a sprinkler system during a practice drill. Then there was the electrical wiring. Let's just say my attempts resulted in more sparks than solutions. I'm pretty sure I almost blew a fuse or 2 or 3. And don't even get me started on the software side. Coding, scripting, it felt like learning a whole new language. My brain simply refused to cooperate. Let's just say I was a long way away from writing any lines of code. I thought perhaps it was just me, but watching other trainees struggle made me realize the skills were a lot harder to master than you initially think. The margin for error is absolutely zero. So, the brutal truth? I failed, miserably. Data center tech isn't as easy as it looks and takes specialized training. So if I can't get a tech job, what are my options? Next, I'm exploring the local entrepreneurial scene. Failing to master data center tech made me realize another issue was brewing under the surface, the wage gap. Local businesses are struggling to compete with Singapore's salaries. It's not a talent problem, it's a pay problem. I started talking to local business owners, and the story was the same. They're losing talent to Singapore, where the pay can be 2 or even 3 times higher for the same job. Imagine trying to run a restaurant or a shop when your best employees keep getting poached. It's not sustainable. To illustrate the problem, I found a job posting for a cashier in Johor Bahru. The salary? Around 2,500 ringgit per month. Then I looked for a similar cashier job in Singapore. The wage? Easily 7,500 ringgit for the exact same work. 3 times the money. That kind of wage gap creates a massive drain.
More and more Malaysians are crossing the border every day, seeking better opportunities. Data shows tens of thousands of Malaysians are now working in Singapore. And while remittances are good for the economy, we're risking a serious brain drain. Deputy Minister Lee Chin-tong hit the nail on the head when he said, Malaysia doesn't have a talent problem. Malaysia has a pay problem.
But there's a plan to fix this. Next, I'm revealing the government initiatives to boost local wages. With Johor struggling to retain its talent, I started wondering, is Singapore actively trying to steal everyone? It turns out Singapore's immigration policies have shifted. They're focusing on quality over quantity, being much more selective about who gets a work pass.
Think of it like this. They want the best of the best. High-skilled professionals, innovators, people who can contribute significantly to their economy, and their Compass framework, which determines who gets an employment pass, got a major update January 1st, 2026. It's even tougher now. I spent hours digging into this Compass thing. It's complex, but essentially it's a points-based system. Age, qualifications, salary, everything is scored, and if you don't hit a certain score, you're out. This directly impacts Malaysian workers, many of whom might have considered Singapore a sure thing. I even spoke to a few Malaysian professionals who are now second-guessing their career plans. The bar has been raised, and Singapore isn't just handing out jobs anymore. It feels like Singapore is strategically cherry-picking the most valuable talent from its neighbors, potentially leaving Johor with a skills shortage. But is Singapore really the land of opportunity? Next, I'm comparing the real cost of living, factoring in taxes and hidden expenses. Okay, crunch time. After weeks of living this cross-border life, let's talk cold hard numbers, the real cost of living. I tracked every single expense from rent to kaya toast. On one side, we have Singapore, a global hub with a global price tag. On the other, Johor, promising a budget-friendly alternative. But is it really? Let's start with rent. In Singapore, a decent one-bedroom apartment near the city center will easily set you back $3,500 Singapore dollars, which is about $12,250 ringgit. Ouch. In Johor, you can find a comparable place for, let's say, 2,500 ringgit. Huge difference. Food? Singapore's hawker centers are relatively affordable, maybe $15 SGD a day, or around $52 ringgit. Johor? Easily half that. Transportation? If you're working in Singapore and living in Johor, that daily commute is going to cost you time and money. Let's estimate $20 SGD a day for buses and tolls, which is $70 ringgit. Taxes, utilities, miscellaneous expenses, they add up. After factoring in everything, including that painful commute, the difference isn't as massive as I initially thought. In reality, living in Johor and working in Singapore, you might save maybe $1,500 ringgit a month, less than 500 Singapore dollars. Is that worth the daily grind? So is it worth it to move to Johor in 2026? I'm making a final decision based on all the facts. So after weeks of crunching numbers, battling traffic, and tasting the best of both worlds, it's time for the big question, am I staying in Johor in 2026? Honestly, it's been a roller coaster. The potential savings are tempting, especially with those Singaporean paychecks, but the rising cost of living here in Johor, that's a real punch to the gut. The commute, while potentially eased by the RTS link in the future, is still a huge time suck right now. It's soul-crushing. Factor in visa hassles, wage gap concerns, the list goes on. Weighing everything, my decision is, I'm not making a permanent move to Johor. At least, not yet. The economic pressures are just too intense right now. While there's huge potential, it feels like Johor is still finding its footing in 2026. And honestly, I don't want to be caught in the growing pains. However, I'm keeping a very close eye on things. Hopeful, if the RTS link significantly eases the commute and the cost of living stabilizes, I might reconsider in the future. Johor's potential is undeniable. So should you move to Johor in 2026? That depends entirely on your risk tolerance, career prospects, and how much you value your time and sanity. Do your research. Be realistic. Hopeful, but before you pack your bags, there's one more thing you need to know about the future of Johor. Even though I'm not quite ready to commit to Johor yet, I couldn't help but wonder, what's the long game here? What's the vision for Johor in, say, 2030? Well, the goal is nothing short of transforming Johor into a major economic powerhouse. The Johor-Singapore Special Economic Zone, or JS-SEZ, is the key catalyst. The forecast is that it will boost Johor's GDP to RM 260 billion by 2030. I'm talking about a projected economic transformation so significant that people are starting to ask, could Johor become the next Dubai? I mean, imagine Johor Bahru in 2030, futuristic skyscrapers, cutting-edge infrastructure, and a thriving international business hub. It's a bold vision, and on paper, it's incredibly exciting. But there's a potential threat looming on the horizon that could derail Johor's ambitious plans. But as Johor chases this Dubai-esque vision, a big question mark hangs in the air. Can it actually stay affordable? I started interviewing residents, and a lot of them are really worried. They see the shiny new developments, but they're also seeing their rent go up, their favorite local shops closing down, and just a general sense that they might get priced out of their own neighborhoods. It's a classic problem. Economic growth can be a double-edged sword. More jobs, more opportunities, but also more pressure on resources and ultimately higher costs for everyone. We're talking about the potential for real social inequality here. If only the wealthy can afford to live in Johor, what happens to the people who built this place? Will Johor become a place of opportunity for everyone or just for a select few? Will it be a rising tide that lifts all boats, or will some be left behind clinging to a sinking ship? The risk of displacement is very real. As land values soar and developers build for wealthier residents and investors, where do the average Johorians go? These aren't just abstract economic concepts, these are people's lives, their homes, their jobs, their futures. It's a really heavy thing to consider. So, after all this, after living here, experiencing the hype, seeing the potential, but also witnessing these very real threats, what's the final verdict? So after weeks of living, breathing, and battling the traffic of Johor, what's my verdict on moving here in 2026? Let's cut straight to it. Johor offers incredible potential. The JS-SEZ is a game changer, and the cost of living, while rising, can still be significantly lower than Singapore or many Western cities. But it's not all sunshine and rainbows. Inflation is a real threat, the commute can be brutal, and navigating visa issues like the DE Rantau Pass can be a bureaucratic nightmare. Ultimately, moving to Johor in 2026 is a gamble, but a calculated one. It's a high-risk, high-reward situation. If you're a digital nomad seeking adventure, or a skilled worker chasing opportunity, Johor could be your next chapter. But do your homework, brace yourself for the unexpected, and be prepared to hustle. Don't forget to weigh Singapore as an option too. Now, before you pack your bags, there's one crucial factor we haven't fully explored. If you enjoyed this video, smash that like button, subscribe for more deep dives, and tell me in the comments, would you move to Johor? Because soon, we will be figuring out if the Johor-Singapore Special Economic Zone will actually work